Welcome, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com, along with Army senior offensive tackle Teddy Williams. Teddy, second scrimmage today. Give me your overall evaluation of the offense. What do you think you guys did well? What do you still need to work on?
Yeah, so I think today the main focus was trying to make sure we're getting in shape for the first game because obviously if you don't practice fast, if you don't play hard and you go into the game kind of with you're kind of buddying guys, kind of letting them off the hook, not finishing plays. If you don't practice like that, you're not going to finish in the game when it comes down to those, third and ones, third and twos, and need to fire up the ball fast when you're dog tired. And I think today that was kind of the main focus by just firing off plays back to back to back and making sure, the O line especially and all the guys we're getting in game shape, game ready. So I think that was the main focus today.
Good stuff.
And
And,
then,
you know, there's been a lot of talk about the offensive line in the offseason, rightfully so. You guys returned four starters from what was already a pretty effective offensive line last year. Five seniors this year, just a loaded upper class offensive line. Talk about, right? Because nobody really, the offensive line has to work as a unit, right? I mean, I know the whole team has to work as a unit, but especially the mob, especially the five guys up front, plus your tight ends, Parker Pulaski, Tex Brandon, and those guys. Talk a little bit about just the offensive line and what you think of the units. It's your second year starting with the unit and the group, and just talk a little bit about your teammates and the group as a whole and what you guys think you can do this year.
mm, so I mean, I think I'll start with first guy, Kyle. So I mean, Kyle, he's played with us, in scrimmages for the past 4 years. We've been getting reps with pretty much every guy on the team for the past 4 years, even if none of us have been on the field together. So I think there's been some natural chemistry, built up. A lot of us were on scout team together. I'd say freshman year, and then moving up into games. I was a tight end. I played with Henry as a tight end growing up, and then moving obviously to tackle with him was kind of cool. And then, working with Paulo and Brady this past year, kind of learning how they move and the different blocks that we have to do together, whether it's a center to the backside backer type deal or, you're tagging with Paulo to a backer. I'd say really we've been focusing this spring and this summer on how can we make different calls with it while the play is going on. So, to kind of help the running backs, give different angles on runs. That's something I don't think we really were, I guess, tuned into last year because a lot of us were new, like you said. But now coming
Okay.
back this year, we've got a lot of experience with game reps together, and we've just been trying to, I guess, iron things out because a lot of us we all kind of know the playbook now, and we're just getting rep after reps and kind of just ironing and fine tuning things. So
Okay. Awesome. And kind of just to go back to some of what you were saying about just kind of fine tuning and working on different angles and maybe opening up different holes for the backs and stuff. Obviously the CIC games are always a slugfest and a real
yep,
struggle where every yard
definitely.
counts and they're typically low scoring. I know as an offensive player, an offensive lineman, you'd probably like to change some of that offensively. Anything you guys are doing from an O-line perspective to really try and kind of improve the ability to maybe get some of those tough short yards, like second half against Navy last year, for example.
Right.
Had you guys just made a couple first downs more, maybe that game ends a little differently.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, in those games, you got to be extremely locked into the front that's in front of you, and kind of pay attention to the guys' different movements on defense because a lot of times they'll kind of tip their hat in what they're doing just based off
Mm-hmm.
body positions and where you see them walking. And those are also kind of weird games because I'd say both teams are very similar. Like all three of our teams are, so we kind of practice against each other's defense every single
Right.
day, and their defense practices our type of offense every single day. So each team is really in tune to what they're doing. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's hard to fire off the ball, but you have to be more, I guess, detailed with your technique, because if you take like one wrong step, you can have a nose guard slant from the opposite like B gap into the front side A gap, and you could just
Right.
if I'm a back to the top, I can just run right by it and I won't even see it, and then that's like a tackle for loss, and that can ruin a drive. So I mean, it's just literally plays like that, and then I think there was some of those against Navy last year where you wish you could have them back. I definitely have some plays I wish I could have back. But I think this year, with the experience that we've had, especially against now playing a game against Air Force and Navy, we're bringing our experience, our senior line in, and I think our coaches have done a great job, trying to hammer being detailed on against teams like that in the CSC games, because they're obviously, like you were saying, those are always slugfests, and those are also fun games to play in. So that's what I'm
Absolutely.
thinking.
And as you were mentioning, very similar teams in a lot of ways. I know in these scrimmages, you guys are going against Coach Dixon's first defense. Is Coach Dixon, the way he plays his front seven, somewhat similar to like the looks you'll see from Navy and Air Force in defending the option?
Yeah, I'd say definitely they run some of the same stunts and some of the same pressures, and that's good when you get a summer rep against a look that you might not see until late October or December. And I think when you bank those reps in, you might not be thinking about it, but your body your mind naturally reacts fast to it. If when it comes up in a game, and I've kind of noticed that with kind of me and Paulo are playing. If we see a look that we haven't really practiced gone over that week, but we just kind of just immediately snap into that like specific defensive, like how you play that defensive look, we immediately just snap into it on the fly. And I'm kind of, and I think that what Coach Dixon's doing, I'm pretty sure they build that into with how we practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to help us obviously prepare for the CIC games moving in later the season, because obviously you probably won't see those looks from every team throughout the year. So I think it's important that we get those looks in practice.
Cool. And, you made the switch widely publicized from tight end to tackle last year, and seemed to step in pretty well and did a really nice job at tackle your first year playing the position. Talk about some of the changes you had to make, maybe from a body comp standpoint, as well as
Yeah.
technique, tactically. What did all that look like for you?
Yeah. So in the, I guess going back to the spring of my 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 junior year, or excuse me, sophomore year, basically, Coach VD was like, "Yo, we want to try out a tackle to see how you move. We like your body movements." And then he's like, "You don't have to gain the weight all at once, but just keep eating." That's kind of what I got with the nutrition staff, and they just put me in a thing, or they put me on like a calorie target. I just try to stick to that throughout the year. And then, I mean, obviously, but I found that when you hit in season, it's kind of harder because you're moving a lot more, you're sweating a lot more. So it's at that point, it's more about maintaining the weight than gaining the weight. And that's something I've learned going into this season. So I'm just trying to make sure you're staying hydrated. You're getting, strength and conditioning staff does a great job. They're putting in like these hyper infused like Gatorade pouches into our water, which I try and pound that whenever I'm at practice. That's helped me not lose as much weight as maybe I did last season. And I think I've stressed hydration more this season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say from just probably technique standpoint, learning pass pro is definitely the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess any guy, if you've never played, tackle or guard or any offensive line position, it's really easy to overset and turn your body right away. And that's something that I obviously struggled with a little bit last year, but I'm trying to get better at that this year. And then just obviously working on when the D-line stunts and twists, just working with guys like Paulo and in practice, Coach Blackshear makes sure we get a lot of work with that. So we're in tune when guys line up in a certain position, like a 3 and a 5, and you can pass it off immediately. that's something I wasn't really attuned to at first, but then as the season went on, just getting more looks in game that you just get better and better. And then obviously this year, I'm just, I don't know, just trying to maintain weight and just keep getting better every day, I guess.
Good stuff. And last question for you, Teddy. I asked Samari, ring weekend was yesterday. Talk about that and what it was like getting your ring after, 4 or really 3+ hard years at West Point so far.
Yeah, no. I mean, I guess when you're standing there in the ceremony in your India whites, you're sweating, you're at parade rest. But I kind of just, while the calm was talking, I just thought about like all the difficulties that you have to go through at West Point. I guess like all the relationships and like the new friends I've made over the years, and then I think the ring is just like kind of a culmination of all the highs and lows and I guess the experience of West Point as a whole. I mean, because I would say like it's not always fun, but it's very like fulfilling, and I say like you get great joy when you overcome a hard situation. And that's kind of how I viewed ring day. And then obviously it's kind of sweet to have like a sick ring, like all those like jewels and stuff on it, so that you can like show your kids or your family.
What color stone did you go with?
I think mine's a white sapphire, something along those lines. Birthstone.
That's
my
cool.
mom
That's unique. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
No doubt.
All right. Thank you, Teddy. Appreciate your time today. Best of success to you through the rest of preseason as you get ready for Bryant in 2 weeks. Go Army, beat Navy.